Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So yesterday we were reading hadith number 100. لا يزني الزاني حين يزني وهو مؤمن. This hadith and other narrations of it go up until hadith number 105. They are all of the same wording, but one of them has an addition I will mention to you shortly. So just as a summary from yesterday, لا يزني الزاني حين يزني وهو مؤمن ولا يسرق السارق حين يسرق وهو مؤمن ولا يشرب الخمر حين يشربها وهو مؤمن. وبعض الروايات ولا ينتهب نهبة ذات شرف يرفع الناس إليه فيها أبصارهم حين ينتهبوها وهو مؤمن. نفي الإيمان. These ahadith basically indicate that the person, when he commits such major sins, Prophet ﷺ described him that he is lacking the Iman while he is performing those acts. حين يزني وهو مؤمن. And the Sahaba, such as Abu Huraira and Ibn Abbas, mentioned, Abu Huraira for instance says that the Iman leaves the person and stays above him just like a cloud or like an umbrella. فإذا أقلع عاد إليه. After he is done with such an act, the Iman will go back to him. But of course, as you know, the Iman will not go back in the same sound situation and intensity and strength as it was before. And Ibn Abbas described it as this: the Iman would be like this, it would leave him and then would come back again. That is because they say that the essence of Iman and the light and the power of Iman is gone during that time. Otherwise it would have prevented the person from committing these acts. Also because the Iman is not only, that's why he would negate the Iman, because the Iman is not only the belief. The Iman is the belief plus, that's called qawl al-qalb. And there's amal al-qalb. Amal al-qalb, qawl al-qalb basically means the belief. The belief of the heart is part of the Iman. Then there's amal al-qalb. Amal al-qalb is the feelings and the drive that is induced in the heart because of the belief, such as the fear of Allah, reliance on Allah, loving Allah, longing for what Allah has in store for him, for the believer as reward, and all these things that come, that the actions of the heart are part of the Iman. Then also the verbal actions of the body are part of the Iman, and the physical actions of the body are all part of Iman. So when somebody is engaging in these things, there's a huge part of Iman that is missing, such as amal al-qalb and qawl al-lisan wa amal al-jawarih. Many parts are missing. Yes, he still has the belief, but the belief has no action during that time and does not really influence the rest of his body or even influence his heart in preventing the heart from enjoying these things that Allah has forbidden. Correct? That is why it is very rightful to say that he doesn't have the Iman during that time. Just like the hadith, Allahumma la aisha illa aisha al-akhirah. When the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba used to sing while they were building the masjid, they say, "Oh Allah, there's no life but the life of akhirah." Of course, there's a life here, but the real life, وَإِنَّ الْآخِرَةَ وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ, which means the real life, the full life. Same when we say that لا يزني وهو مؤمن, which means he does not have the Iman, which means he doesn't have the proper Iman, does not have the real Iman, or the Iman that is actually driving his actions. Also, it could also indicate that a person who does these things repeatedly and doesn't really care about it, he will end up losing the Iman as well. That's another explanation of why Prophet ﷺ says that he doesn't have the Iman. Or we could say that he is in a state of lacking the Iman, an imperfect Iman, حين يزني, while he is performing the act. Then the Iman goes down as well. And he cannot be called as a full believer. He can be called as a deficient, somebody who is deficient in his belief. That's why such an explanation of the wording of the hadith. This is how the scholars explained it. Now, one hadith, the narration number 104 says, وَالتَّوْبَةُ مَعْرُوضَةٌ بَعْدُ, and which means that, and the tawbah is available, repentance is available to this person. Once he comes back to his senses, then he should repent to mend and fix what has been broken of the Iman and to make up for what has been lost of the Iman. Correct? Now, also, some scholars said that maybe the Iman, Allah lifts the Iman from the person during these, while he's engaged in something that Allah dislikes or has forbidden. Maybe that's out of the mercy of Allah. Otherwise, he would be in a direct challenge against Allah Azza wa Jal, knowing that Allah is watching him and having all these real feelings that Allah is watching him, Allah hates what he's doing and he's still doing it. Maybe the deficiency of the Iman could be a mercy from Allah towards that person, so as not to get punished right then and there. You understand what I'm trying to say? So it's not a clear, open defiance to Allah while he's doing this. It's an intricate meaning. Also, there's a hadith in which Ubayd ibn Samit says, أنهم بايعوا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم على أن لا يسرقوا ولا يزنوا. They made a pledge with the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم that they would not steal, they would not commit zina, fornication. And in the end of the hadith, Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم says, ومن فعل شيئا من ذلك فعوقب به في الدنيا فهو كفارة ومن لم يعاقب فهو إلى الله إن شاء عفى عنه وإن شاء عذبه. So after he told them not to commit these acts, he says, whoever commits such a sin and gets punished in this dunya, this will be a cleansing for him, which means that he will not be punished in the akhirah for what he has done. But then he says, but whoever goes free in this dunya, does these actions and doesn't get punished in dunya for what he has done, then he says, فَهُوَ إِلَى اللَّهِ. It is up to Allah to decide on his affair. Allah may forgive or Allah may punish. Correct? So what does this indicate? This is a clear indication that such acts do not take the person completely to kufr. If they had taken him to kufr, then there would be no chance. There would be no chance for forgiveness. Correct? And there will be no chance for expiation by being punished in the dunya. Because nothing cleanses the kufr. Nothing would take in Allah لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء. So that's a clear hadith that shows that these actions are not kufr, and that is why we are obligated to understand the hadith in all these other ways of understanding, rather than understanding it the way the Khawarij, for instance, understood it, that it is a real kufr. You follow? Now, وَالتَّوْبَةُ مَعْرُوضَةٌ بَعْدُ. Now, we'll take one more hadith. Actually, because we took so long in this one, we will complete this hadith. There's some other point I wanted to mention, that the Khawarij, as I mentioned, it's a sect called the Khawarij, who are extremists, who consider committing any major sin that this person has left belief totally. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they consider that this hadith means that هو مش مؤمن, هو كافر يعني إذا ارتكب هذه الذنوب. فاهمني؟ الخوارج يعني يقول. نعم. لا ما فهم. الحديث الثاني ها؟ نعم yes. ما مش بيتكلموا عليه. يعني this is people who want to go astray. They select what they want, the evidence they want. This other hadith, I don't know what they would say about it. I haven't met one of them يعني. الحمد لله.
في أحد الروايات بتقول إنه مجموعة من الصحابة سألوا الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام إنه هل المؤمن يسرق؟ قال نعم يسرق.
نعم.
المؤمن يزني؟ نعم يزني.
نعم.
إلى أن وصلوا إلى يكذب؟
قال لا يكذب. نعم.
قال لا يجوز.
لا قال لا يجوز. وإن كان أظن هذا حديث فيه كلام في إسناده، ولكن في حديث ثاني بتاعت من قال لا إله إلا الله دخل الجنة وإن زنى وإن سرق، قلنا المرة اللي فاتت. وإن زنى وإن سرق، قال أبو ذر وإن زنى وإن سرق، قال وإن زنى وإن سرق، قال وإن زنى وإن سرق، قال وإن زنى وإن سرق، ثلاث مرة قال على رغم أنف أبي ذر. يعني يعني basically he says who said لا إله إلا الله will eventually enter Jannah.
هو دليل رحمة رب العالمين.
طبعا وإن زنى وإن سرق. نعم. Even if he had committed zina or stealing, he will eventually enter Jannah. But obviously he's talking about somebody who committed these things and has not repented. Because if he has repented, then it is as if he has not committed them. So somebody is a mu'min believer but is a weak believer, he falls into these sins and died in this state, he will eventually enter Jannah, but he may be punished for these things. But he will enter Jannah. So Abu Zar says, how can you go to Jannah? وَإِن زَنَى وَإِن سَرَقَ. Kept on repeating and asking. So Prophet ﷺ says, وَإِن زَنَى وَإِن سَرَقَ وَعَلَى رَغْمِ أَنْفِ أَبِي ذَرٍ. Regardless of whether or not Abu Dhar likes this, which means that he will enter Jannah. Let me finish this hadith with how Ibn Taymiyyah says something very nice here. He says, وَأَجْمَعَ السَّلَفُ عَلَى أَنَّ الْإِيمَانَ قَوْلٌ وَعَمَلٌ يَزِيدُ وَيَنْقُصُ. He says, it's a consensus of all the people who have passed before us, that Iman consists of actions and sayings, and it increases and diminishes. ومعنى ذلك أنه قول القلب وعمل القلب وقول اللسان وعمل الجوارح. Basically, قول says it is the saying of the heart, which is the belief. وعمل القلب, which is the feelings that I mentioned to you before, like loving Allah, fearing Allah, and so on. وقول اللسان, such as shahada, saying أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله, and all the good things that you say. وعمل الجوارح, and all the good actions that you do with your limbs and faculties. Then he says something very important. He says ثم الناس في هذا على أقسام. He says this Iman itself, people are at different categories. منهم من صدق به جملة ولم يعرف التفصيل ومنهم من صدق جملة وتفصيلا. Some people, they believe in all these things, but just in a general way. They have not gone into details of the different attributes of Allah, whatever is in Jannah, whatever is in Akhirah. All these details they haven't gone into. Such as, for instance, the elderly people who have very strong belief, but if you ask them, they might not even recite maybe قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, and that's it. They don't know too many details, and that is fine. That is fine. Big scholars like Imam al-Razi, as he was dying, he says he would wish يموت على إيمان العجائز. I would love to have just a simple, plain belief of the elderly women of Naysabur. He says, after all this trip that I did in علم الكلام والفلسفة and philosophy and all these books and he went into, he says, all I wish right now is to have the belief of the simple lay woman of Naysabur, his city. Now, anyhow, he says, and some people know the details. Okay, that of course, if you know the details, it's even better if you are capable to. But some people just don't have the ability to go into the details, and that is fine. ثم منهم, after this, منهم من يدوم استحضاره وذكره لهذا التصديق ومنهم من يغفل عنه ويذهل. So see, some people, okay, they have the belief and they are always remembering these items and articles of faith and they live by it all the time. They remember it, they do dhikr, they do salah, so that's a very good state. But some people, they get distracted in dunya, different things, so they only remember these things maybe at the time of salah, for instance, or even sometimes not there. So يغفر عنه ويذهل. ومنهم من استبصر فيه بما قذف الله في قلبه من نور الإيمان ومنهم من جزم بالدليل. He says, and some believers, they become believers just because Allah enlightened their heart for no explanation that we can come up with. You see, some people have firm belief and they are very diligent about their salah, their siyam, their sadaqah, good deeds, following the halal, abstaining from haram. And if you ask them to recite one surah, they might not be able to. Correct? And they have just, Allah gave them the iman in their heart, and we see that all the time. And he says, but some people come to the strong iman by looking for all these pieces of evidence in the universe and in the Quran and the miracles and so on. They try to collect as much evidence as they can to strengthen the iman. So there is this and there is that. He says ومنهم من جزم به لدليل قد تعترض فيه شبهة أو تقليد أو تقليد جازم. He says, but even those people who just follow, they don't have that enlightenment from Allah, and they use the adillah, they use the pieces of evidence, still their iman could be a little bit shaken, because there's shubha, which means some confusion. They can't know everything. Some confusion can creep into their iman here or there. That is why to have the light from Allah, that is the best. If you have both, that's amazing. Now, then he goes, there was one more point he would mention here. I think I was. Yes, and then he talks about why people fall into sins. He says, لابد من أحد ثلاثة أشياء. إما اضطراب العقيدة بأن يعتقد بأن الوعيد ليس ظاهره كباطنه وإنما مقصوده الزجر. He says people would fall into sin for one of three reasons. One of them is that he would think that the warning and the threats that Allah is making, maybe they won't really take place. Maybe Allah just wants us to not to do it. Just like when you tell your child, you know, if you do this, I will kill you. You will never kill him. You would kill yourself, but not kill your child. Right? So he says some people may think that maybe Allah is just, scaring us away, but He won't really punish us. Just like, in the Quran, ذلك بأنهم قالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أيام معدودات. Allah says وغرهم في دينهم ما كانوا يفترون, which means they kept on lying until they deceived themselves. وغرهم في دينهم ما كانوا يفترون. Lie. Oh, now I believe in it.
And there was a situation in Nigeria, people would get drunk.
Uh-huh.
And they say they would get drunk, do atrocities in such a way that by the time they get to Allah, Allah will be so annoyed, you throw them and they will bypass the Jahannam. Is it not funny?
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. Says that's one thing. The other thing, وإما الغفلة والذهول عن التحريم. And sometimes just distraction with this dunya and falling into the love of the desires and so on. وفرط شهوة بحيث يقهر مقتضى الإيمان ويمنع موجبه بحيث يصير الاعتقاد مغمورا مقهورا. Yes, he has the belief, but he also has so much intense passion and desire that his iman has become very weak to overcome these things. He says كالعقل في النائم والسكران وكالروح في النائم. He says just like somebody who still has his mind, but he is drunk. Because he's drunk, he cannot use his mind during that time, right? He says also like somebody who's asleep, yes, he's alive, but he cannot perform the actions of somebody who is awake. Basically, he said, these are the kind of things that lead people to fall into sins. May Allah save us now. We'll stop here.